game. We rise and unite, fueling the passion, igniting the light. Through highs and lows, we'll stand as one. A legacy, a tale that's just begun. Together we roar, together we roar. The Detroit Lions will rise, with a heart full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the home of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. So let's lift our voices, let's turn it up loud. For the love of the Lions, we'll always be proud.
All right. Good morning. Welcome to the Rise and Grind Morning Show. It is Wednesday. It's officially hump day this week. It is December 11th. Man, we're going to get into a lot of topics this morning, but I think first and foremost, we're going to pay some tribute to Alex Anzalone today, who's been an absolute blessing for this Lions team ever since he's joined this team on a one-year contract. And now he is definitely one of the true leaders on this roster, currently battling, his injury away from football. And hopefully we'll have him back soon. But we'll get into all that and more this morning with NFL news, Lions news, rumors, and everything else that we're going to discuss this morning. But good morning, Eric. Let's get our introductions out of the way. How you doing today?
Yeah, fantastic this morning. It's not snowing, so I'm happy.
It's about to be. We're supposed to get like a foot of snow today.
It's supposed to be really warm this weekend.
No, not here.
Yeah, even in Detroit, it's supposed to be mid-40s, so we don't have to wear snowsuits and Carhartts and all that crap to the game this weekend. It'll be nice.
Yeah, that would be nice. Well, I just got a message. We're supposed to get a ton of snow. It was supposed to start last night or early this morning, and didn't happen. I'm glad it didn't happen. I don't want to have to deal with it right now, but it's supposed to happen today. So we'll see what happens. But looking around the league, man, there's a lot to talk about. So I guess today we're going to dive into a lot of NFL news. And like I said, I want to get into Alex Anzalone today. But I got a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time there was a 100-yard rusher against the Lions? Do you know?
It was the Carolina Panthers.
Right. Are we for sure on this? I mentioned it last night in the member review.
Yep, it was at the Carolina Panthers, and they ran for like 300 yards against us.
So was that the December 24th, 2022 game?
Yep, you got it.
So how many games has it been since then that we have not allowed a single 100-yard rusher? That's what I don't know. That's what I didn't do last night, was look that up.
Almost 2 full seasons. None in 23 and none in 24.
So none in 23 would mean, so there's 17 games, and then we're 12 and 1, so that's 13. So that's 30 games.
Plus 3 playoff games.
So that's 33. Plus we had one more game after the Panthers game, right?
A couple more. Yeah.
Hold on here.
It's been a minute since we let somebody run for 100 yards. Now, Justin Fields did it as a quarterback, but that's the only people that have done it as quarterbacks.
Justin Fields did it?
Yes.
As a quarterback, but no running back.
No running backs.
Right.
Correct.
Trying to look at the schedule here to get the exact date here. So I got to go all the way back to December of 22. Panthers game. So we had 2 games. So that's 35 games. 35 games. The Detroit Lions have not allowed a 100-yard rusher to any running back in the NFL that they've faced so far. We've came close a couple of times this season.
Yep.
And I think that that's exactly why, no matter who we have on this defensive line this weekend, I think that's exactly why Josh Allen is going to have a little bit of trouble. I think that we're going to be able to bottle him up. I think that's the number one task. Allen is public enemy number one, for the Lions this weekend. Like, he is the most important figure on the Bills roster right now. And I don't mean to slight anybody on the roster, but for us to be able to win this game, it's Allen or bust. You shut Allen down, and that is, in my opinion, is going to control the narrative of the game. You got to shut him down. Would you think anything otherwise?
No, and that's, we have to stop Josh Allen from running and contain, keep him in the pocket. If he's going to beat us, he's got to beat us with his arm. We can't let him beat us with his legs. That's the one thing we just cannot do. Looking something up here.
Well, it's good to see it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So Josh Allen had 10 carries for 82 yards at 8.2 yards a clip with 3 touchdowns last week. That was his best day of rushing all season. And we just can't let him do that. We don't need a 44-42 game. I don't want to see that.
Well, he smashed an NFL record too. He was the first ever quarterback to have 3 rushing TDs, 3 passing TDs, and wow, there was something else with it. But yeah, he smashed a record doing it.
Yep.
No records are going to be broken against the Lions. Matter of fact, I don't even know if any records have been broken against the Lions this year, passing or rushing. I don't think there's been any that I can think of.
Nobody's had any super awesome days.
Yeah, the Lions PR team usually does a great job on Twitter, and lay everything out at least for the Lions. So we're gonna have a little bit of a costume design for this weekend. Costume change. So we was talking about painting the face. I might still paint the face to for the game, but I'm gonna go back to my traditional silver and blue. I think we're just gonna keep it PC. But I did pick up some things yesterday. Number one, we've got Sonic and Knuckles necklaces. So the Sonic one is made. This thing is absolutely badass. So we're going to have these. They're up for sale in the Buy Me a Coffee app right now to raise some money for the Cancer Foundation. And if you are going to be at the game this weekend and you do pre-buy one, as long as you get it, as long as you order it before Saturday, I can have it with me on Sunday. I do plan on leaving, I think, on Saturday night. But anyway, if you pre-order one, there's only 10 of each. That's all I have. That's all I'm going to be able to make. It's tough to find product to be able to make these things. But I'm going to be wearing this guy. I'm going to be going all Sonic for the game. I'm going to be sticking out in the middle of section 105 with a Sonic mask on. So that's going to be part of my costume this weekend. And Eric, I got one for you too if you want to wear one. How
can they hear you though?
That's, I can sneak a little noisemaker underneath it or something. Just kidding. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be like the 49ers fans that were blowing kazoos and all sorts trumpets and all sorts of weird things.
Dude, there was Lions fans everywhere with that stuff.
I guess the NFL doesn't care anymore then, because I kind of took it as if the 49ers were able to do it in the NFC Championship game, it must be house rules. But when I read the rules of the stadium and what the NFL allows, there's no noisemakers. You're not supposed to have anything that makes noise other than what the stadium gives you, where they'd give you the little fan fold things where you could slap it on your hand, or, those big long like tubes that would be full of air and you could, make some loud noise with them. But
$20 super chat.
Hey, big shout out to Robert Welch. Hey, it's been a minute since I've seen that name. He said 1 lump or 2 gents. I don't know what that means, buddy.
Sugar in your coffee, man.
I don't know what that means.
It means 1 lump or 2 in your,
1 lump or 2. I got you. Coffee So time, I just do coffee creamer, man. It's just caramel macchiato cream for me in the coffee. It tastes great. And don't forget, man, we got some coffee for sale. A lot of coffee. Got Honolulu Blue Brew Triumph. Catch it in the Buy Me a Coffee app as well. And then, of course, it's also C3 Mitt giveaway day. So we're going to be giving some C3 mitts away today. You guys got to get your hands on some of these, or at least get your hands in some. You've got the multi-mitt, which does everything. Has these silica beads all over it, so it kind of gives you like a sticky surface. But you slide your hand in this guy. It's got a hand warmer pocket that you can slide, an actual hot hands pocket warmer, and keep your hand cool or dry or warm, whatever you need all day long. You've got the bow mitt. So if you're a bow hunter, get your hands on one of these bow mitts. It does not change anything with your bow. Matter of fact, it keeps you consistent. The same way you practiced all summer, you're going to continue to have that same feeling, that same shot confidence as you will when it's hunting time. And then you've got your rifle, shotgun mitts, and crossbow mitts, all available at c3mitts.com. Better the Hunt Technologies has sponsored the channel, and they are going to be giving away Mitt's every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and we'll be doing that today. So we got to come up with a unique way to give some away today, Eric. So as we go through the show, we gotta find something for them to remember at the end of the show. And that's the only hint that I'm going to give you guys. So, Eric, you had a report this morning, and I think that we'll start with that. So let's start with the power rankings, talking NFL news.
Oh, okay. Let me get over to that.
I don't know, Jay Cruisin. I don't know if the Shadow Sonic is allowed, but I didn't see any masks for that one.
What's that? I'm not a gamer. I don't know.
I think it's the dark one. They did for the shadows, the black colored Sonic, I think.
Oh, okay. I didn't know there was one.
I think I don't know either. I know there's a black one, there's the yellow one, there's the red, which is Knuckles, then you got blue, which is Sonic. I don't know. I had too much fun in the store yesterday.
I've had an Xbox, but listen, I've played some Star Wars games. My hands the last couple of years have went downhill, so I have not touched a video game in 2 years. I don't know much about these video games people play these days. All right, so let's get into some power rankings. So let's see here. Lions Wire came out with this article talking about where the Lions sit in the NFL power rankings entering week 15. Dan Campbell was aggressive once again, and it paid off. After notching another field goal win at the buzzer over Green Bay in week 14, the Lions are now 12-1, having won 11 straight. They have secured a playoff spot and have their sights set on the number 1 seed. Detroit has a 1-game lead over the Eagles and Vikings in the race for home field advantage. As we enter the final quarter of the season, the Lions have taken a strong hold on the top of the power polls across the media landscape. Let's take a look at some of those rankings and what the analysts have to say. So USA Today currently has them at number 1. Last week they had them at number 1. And what did they have to say? Their positioning at the top of the heap feels fairly unassailable. The NFC leaders tied for the league's best record, 12-1. Consecutive playoff berths in hand for the first time in 29 years, and with the NFL's largest point differential of 183. And we go down to the next one. Pro Football Talk. Current rank, number 1. Last week rank, number 1. What Mike Florio had to say. Too much risk it, eventually no biscuit. I don't think so, Mike Florio. He can go somewhere else.
Hold on here. So Mike Florio's back on his typical Lions rhetoric.
Yeah.
1 week he gives us flowers, like, and that happens so few and far between.
Yeah.
And the majority of the time he's just a Lions hater. And, I think that he's just a closet lover of the Lions. I mean, I got to be honest here, because he seems like he always has the Lions on his brain. We live rent free in Mike Florio's head. And I'm glad we do.
You know why? Because he is an admitted huge Homer Vikings fan.
Oh yeah. No, we knew that, but it's just, when I see him with Chris Sims from time to time, and just a few weeks ago when I highlighted it in a show, he was actually giving us a little bit, of some credit, but for whatever reason, he just can't get out of his own way and says some, inflammatory things. And honestly, it's just the media circus. Like, these guys are all about driving clicks, and that's all I see now. Whenever I go for Lions news, all I see is so much clickbait now. It's not even funny. I mean, even a lot of the articles that are there, it just talks about the same stuff just to get people to talk about the same thing over and over and over. And it's like, well, what happened to being, original or different, or, finding different topics? There was someone that said yesterday, I don't remember where I was reading this, but they had said that when they look for Lions news and podcasts, you can go to any other team and you see all of these podcasts that are on daily, and, people that, are talking about their teams daily. But then you go to Lions and it's like, you have Rise and Grind and you've got Crunch Time. We're like the only two that do it daily, from the perspective of real Lions news. And then he was just saying, like, you can't really find much. And that's like, come on, we're 12-1. Like, what's going on here? Why do we not have a whole bunch of people just pumping what's going on? I don't know. But all I see is clickbait out there. I don't like it. Anyway, keep going these power rankings. I got a quick note here for you about power rankings. Did you know that the Lions have posted 20 plus points for 11 straight games?
Wow.
And that is my number, which is 20. As long as you can score more than 21 and keep teams under 20, you're going to win a lot of ball games. And that has been the case this season. Lions are averaging a league high right now, 31 points. So that's why we're 12-1. That's why we're going to win the Super Bowl this year.
Number one scoring defense number one scoring offense, and we're tied for second in scoring defense. So, or was it second or fourth? I'll have to look.
So ESPN has the Chiefs as the second team right now, which I find that a little odd. What did the article that you're reading, did that have the Chiefs as number 2 as well?
Well, it only shows who's number 1. And so it's basically just showing that we are number 1 in basically every single poll. And it's just the fact that some of them all want to take a little dig at the Lions. And what it is Dan Campbell went for it 5 times on 4th down. And he got it 4 out of the 5 times. But because that one time didn't work, and it was on his own 30 or 31, it didn't work. That's what he's getting all the criticism for. If that would have worked, all they would be talking about this week is what a genius Dan Campbell is and how he's going to change the league. And it's 4th down money ball and blah, blah, blah. But because one didn't work, that's why. And that's where we're getting all the criticism for. And, the Lions are basically the best team in the NFL. So people are looking for anything to nitpick on the Lions. So anytime they screw up with anything, it's going to be the sky is falling. It's the worst thing in the world. So, of course, media wants to focus on the negative. They never want to focus on the positive.
Well, you know why that is, though. I mean, it's first of all, it's lonely at the top.
Yep.
We don't get there very often. Matter of fact, never.
No.
So the fact that we've been number 1 on pretty much every platform that does a power ranking for more than 6 weeks now, 7 weeks. Yeah, I don't even know how many weeks in a row it's been. Of course, you're going to have the little ankle biters that just want to kind of nip and nip and nip and nip and hoping that the big tree is going to fall over at some point. And it's just not going to happen. The Lions, look, I have never seen a team do what this team has done. There's been some pretty incredible teams in the history of the NFL, like the 85 Bears, right? Their defense. The era of the Dolphins, the era of the Bills, that went to all those Super Bowls but didn't win. There's been some incredible teams that, the Iron Curtain of the Steelers days. I mean, there's just so many different things you could talk about. The Lions are now fitting into that dynamic or that role right now in the NFL, that what they're doing is just different. And people can't handle change. Whenever you see change, someone's always going to push against it. Always. They can't take it. They don't like it. They don't want it. In this case, it's my team versus your team. Of course, they don't want to see you doing well. But the Lions have been the most hated franchise, I feel like, in the NFL for 35 plus years. For whatever reason. Yeah. And I don't know if it's just because we haven't won a lot of games. We haven't been to the Super Bowl. We haven't won a lot of playoff games. And maybe that's why we're the most trash talk team out there. Even when we're doing well, we're getting trash talked. And that's fine. You know what? We're going to breathe it all in. And it's just going to make us better the next day, in my opinion. What else did you have on power rankings? Do you want to roll through the top 4, or at least I can roll through the top 4 or 5 if you want, real quick?
There you go. Because mine only had the Lions at 1 in all the power rankings. I was just going to highlight a couple of the nitpicky things that people were talking about. But you know what? The Detroit Lions have the number 1 scoring offense in the league, and we are tied for second in scoring defense at 18 points per game.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. It's incredible what this team is doing, and doing it with a makeshift defense right now.
A practice squad.
You know, we still had 7 or 8 starters, in the game last weekend, or last Thursday. But the defensive line is probably the most important part of your defense to at least get the play started. If you get your defensive line beat, it doesn't matter what you have behind them. It just crumbles. The Lions aren't crumbling. If anything, they're getting stronger week by week. Yeah, they let up the most points that they've seen all season, but they found a way to win because we have an explosive offense. So number 1 by NFL.com is the Detroit Lions. It says, that's 2 close shaves at home in the past 2 weeks, but Thursday's win over the Packers was a clear upgrade over the Lions' Thanksgiving performance against the Bears. And even further decimated defense hung on for dear life, turning in an absolutely gutsy effort. I think gutsy is right. The offense did what it does. Controlling the clock and limiting Green Bay's possessions was a big part of the game plan. This was complimentary football in all 3 phases, right down to Jake Bates' game-winning kick. Missing on the 4th down late in the 3rd quarter hurt, as did Jared Goff's interception before that, but converting on 4 other 4th downs, including the wild one late in the game to tie the game, well within field goal range, more than made up for those shortcomings and cemented the Lions' current place as the NFL's best team. Number 2 is the Philadelphia Eagles, and this is where, when you look between ESPN and other platforms, I would have the Eagles as number 2 as well, right now. And here's what it says. For the life of me, I can't explain why the Eagles always seem like they're still mentally getting off the bus in the first quarters of the game. They've even been outscored 59-17 in the opening frame this year, but they're plus 150 in point differential for the other 3 quarters. Philadelphia didn't have a great offensive game plan against Carolina on Sunday, but it was good enough to earn its 9th straight win. That ties them for their franchise all-time mark, I guess. And even with 4 straight turnover-free games, to his credit, Jalen Hurts has left some meat on the bone. So here's what I would say right away about the number 2 Eagles. Knowing that they're giving up the most points in the first quarter, if the Lions have to take on the Eagles in an NFC Championship game, I would say that Ben Johnson's probably going to go up top early and often and get that ball downfield and try to hang 21 points in the first quarter. That's what I would do. I would fast and furious and get that offense just rolling. And I think that if you can do that, you'd have a better chance of beating the Eagles the more points you can score in the first quarter. Number 3, they have the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's where I would slot in the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills, they're talking about the irony of Sunday's loss to L.A., is that it seems to have boosted Josh Allen's MVP case, and it's not hard to see why. Allen was absolutely electric in the 44-42 shootout, accounting for all 6 Bills touchdowns, and nearly bringing the team all the way back from down 17 points in the 4th quarter. Buffalo just couldn't get the job done. And then number 3, which I have as number 4, Kansas City Chiefs. The difference between Sunday's win over the Chargers and the recent ones over the Raiders, Panthers, and Broncos is that the Chiefs weren't truly lucky to win. Well, unless you call a bank shot field goal luck, which I'll allow. But in this game, they did what they needed to do, withstanding the Bolts push, holding them to a late field goal and driving down for the game-winning kick. So, again, it's just another close win for the Chiefs. And there's nothing wrong with a close win. I mean, like Eric says all the time, a win is a win is a win, right? We're not going to make excuses. We're not going to apologize for a win. Sometimes there's just 1-point win or 2-point win or 3-point win in the NFL, and they matter. But I think what is the bigger tale there to be told is that in those close games, are you going to be able to beat the Lions that have so many ways of beating you offensively? And I think that's what these teams are going to run up against when they get their shot at the Lions in the postseason. So that's your top 4 for power rankings. Next up, before we get to Bill Belichick here, do you have anything you want to add to the power rankings?
Yeah, so I want to talk about the number 2 team for just a minute, the Philadelphia Eagles. And a little thing came up this week between Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. They got into a little bit of a spat, and A.J. Brown threw Jalen Hurts under the bus. So not much brotherly love is being felt these days between 2 of the Philadelphia Eagles' biggest stars. Despite a 22-16 home win over the Carolina Panthers that boosted the Eagles to an 11-2 record, wide receiver A.J. Brown didn't hide his frustration with quarterback Jalen Hurts in his post-game media availability after receiving a season-low tying 4 targets. When asked how the offense can improve, the 3-time Pro Bowler gave a one-word response: passing. And when asked how difficult it is to get in rhythm when only 21 passes are attempted, Brown bluntly said, incredibly tough. He is being pissy. A.J. Brown is a diva. He is going to be a problem. He's one of those feed me the ball kind of guys. And if you're not feeding him the ball, he throws a little hissy fit. And that's what this is. And he's throwing his quarterback under the bus. And if this is happening against a, what are they, 2-9, 2-10 Panthers team, then what are you going to do when you play a 12-1 Lions team?
Yeah, well, I will say this too. You remember what took down the Eagles last year? It wasn't so much A.J. Brown was injured, which was a big part of it.
It was the Bucks.
Well, it was the internal issues with Jalen Hurts and the coaching staff.
Yep.
So there was grumblings that there was a lot of internal issues between Jalen Hurts and the head coach last season. I can't remember his name right now. I can't remember the Eagles head coach's name. Sirianni. There we go. And if you're starting to see more internal issues between players, that could spiral this team into the ground. It happens from time to time. The heat just gets a little too hot in the kitchen, and things happen. So probably should pay a little close attention to what's going on in the Eagles here. We'll be monitoring the Eagles wire throughout the coming weeks here and see if we see anything happening.
Yeah, because they're playing the Steelers this week.
And speaking of that, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but speaking of that, the Eagles are getting another helping hand this weekend. So let me skip a topic real quick. They're getting a helping hand with Pickens that is most likely going to be out. So this is just another way for the Eagles to remain close in the NFC race for the 1 seed. The Pittsburgh Steelers initially believed that the hamstring injury that Pickens suffered would only limit his ability in practice and likely not prevent him from playing against Philadelphia, but that has changed. Now they're thinking that it will limit him from playing. The quote by Tomlin says, "There's a potential for this week, but it's an outside chance. If you press me, I'd probably say he's out or could be characterized as doubtful as we sit here." So it's just another, gift-wrapped game for the Eagles without the Steelers' number 1 wide receiver. I don't really know if the Steelers can operate without Pickens. It's not like the Lions, where if you're down Montgomery, you have Gibbs. And behind Gibbs, you now have Vaki and you have Craig Reynolds, which have proven to be able to get good yardage when in their limited play, at least. Same thing can be said for the wide receivers. If you're down J-Mo, we now have the emergence of Tim Patrick. So, and then you can go to Sam Laporta. You can go to Amon Rod. I mean, we have too many guys, too many playmakers on the offensive side of the ball that if the Lions are down somebody, we still have a better opportunity than most teams would, I guess is where I'm going with that. But not real happy that the Eagles are getting a helping hand this weekend. Injuries suck. They really do. Any comments on that before we get to Bill Belichick for just 2 seconds?
Yeah, Jared Goff got 5 receptions to 6 different receivers.
That's true.
Broke an NFL record this last week. So it doesn't matter who's playing. Everyone gets their share here. No one is complaining. No one's doing anything bad. And before I forget, I saw something on X yesterday, and this was super cool, and I was going to highlight it today, and I almost completely forgot. You know what J-Mo did yesterday? He got a bunch of his other players together and said, let's do a jacket drive for kids. And they went to downtown Detroit and handed out jackets to inner city kids yesterday. And it was pretty awesome. And it was all put together by J-Mo. And he got, I don't know, Kirby and a bunch of the other guys to go downtown and do this with him. And I saw it on X and saw a little video of him handing out jackets yesterday. So I thought that was pretty awesome.
Nice work, J-Mo. It's funny that you brought this up. So there's two things that I'm not going to be able to do this season because it just wasn't planned in time. But next year we're going to be doing a turkey trot for Thanksgiving. So we're going to give out, our goal is to do 50 families. So we'll start raising, funds in that in the very beginning. I do have a local store partner that is willing to kind of help us out at cost. And it's going to cost roughly $5 to $6 per family, at least to get the basics. But we want to do a little bit more than the basics. So we're going to give a banana box full turkey and, the whole dinner for Thanksgiving. So next season, we're going to do a turkey trot. We'll hand out turkey meals to at least 50 families is our goal. And then the coats. So that's another great opportunity. There's a lot of kids that just don't have much. And there's a local nonprofit that I used to help 10 years ago and watch them start from the very beginning, and where they have gone to now is just incredible. So I'm going to reach out to him in the coming weeks and figure out if there's a way that we can partner up and help them do what they're already doing and add to it. And then, of course, this spring, we really need to drive dollars to help out kids with school supplies and backpacks. So those are the three big ones that we're going to do to help out families and kids, with the Rockdown Cancer Foundation being part of it. But it's more so just Rockdown Detroit Lions trying to do something different and being helpful for the community. So what J-Mo is doing is spot on, man. That's a big heart that he has, and he really wants to do good things, for the city. And this is not the first time. So big shout out to J-Mo, man.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight him because all we ever hear is negative with J-Mo. Well, how about some positive stuff? Rock on, J-Mo. That was awesome.
Yeah, good work, dude. Good work. So Bill Belichick, and before I get to Bill, I forgot to give Robert Welch his shout out this morning. So big thank you again for the $20 donation this morning, Robert. And let me get you a touchdown this morning. We'll do Gibbs.
They give it to Jameer, hesitates, cuts left, looking for the edge, to the end zone, touchdown Detroit Lions. Looked to the left side, didn't find anything there, spun out, looked left, wide open, takes it to the house.
So Bill Belichick's in the news, and there's been a lot of talk of whether he's going to come back to an NFL team and be a head coach, and that looks like it may have come to an end. He might be the next head coach for North Carolina. And I found this article, or at least what I read yesterday, I found it kind of weird. So part of what he has offered up to the University of North Carolina is that Stephen Belichick would be kind of the coach waiting in the wings, if you will. So if Bill Belichick takes this job and then maybe he finds himself back in the NFL or he retires from coaching, Stephen Belichick would be the next head coach for UNC. And I found this really, I don't want to say irritating, but it was kind of irritating. Like, how do you work out a deal that you're going to just cement one of your kids into a head coaching position when you leave? I found that really odd. And I don't know if that speaks to the power of Bill Belichick and what he's been able to do throughout his career. I mean, very well-respected dude from the game of football. I do give him his flowers for whatever he's done, which is a lot. What has he won? Like 8 Super Bowls or 7 or 8, or he's been a part of 8 at least. But Bill Belichick is considering an offer to become the next head coach of North Carolina. And a deal has not been agreed to, and terms are still being negotiated. But the sources said, while a deal may still be coming together quickly, sources had cautioned that nothing is really imminent just yet, that sides remain apart on multiple key terms, But the people spoke on condition of anonymity, and because discussions between the 72-year-old, he does not look 72, and the ACC school were not being made public. So the Pat McAfee show has had conversations with the UNC Chancellor Lee Roberts about filling the vacancy, which has been open since the school fired Mac Brown days before the regular season finale. So where this was going, I just lost it. I don't know what's going on with my computer. It's like crashing for some reason. Maybe I have too many windows open or something. I don't know. I built this thing to be able to do that. It shouldn't have any problems. So I'm going to have to go off the cuff here. In a nutshell, like I said, it was, he gave them like some 400-page document that outlined everything about the football program and everything that needed to happen, and an entire plan, personnel that he would bring in, and then, of course, the part about Stephen Belichick being the next coach should Bill Belichick leave. So I found it interesting. Just wanted to highlight Bill Belichick for a minute this morning, because I think it would be great to watch him coach a college team, given now that, colleges are surrounded by this NIL money. How much money would be poured in to UNC and Bill Belichick to create, a winning culture there? Could be a team on the cusp of doing great things if Bill Belichick becomes a head coach. UNC was always my second team, and that's the other reason why I wanted to highlight it today. With my mom, living in North Carolina, I was a big fan of North Carolina State and North Carolina University. So that's the news for Bill Belichick. Next up, Eric, you had something on the best games of the weekend.
I do, but first, is UNC, is that where Bill Belichick's girlfriend goes to school?
I have no idea. No, she's she's still in daycare. That's terrible. That is terrible. So we got 52 likes. We needed to get to 60, but I'll give you guys the benefit of the doubt this morning. We'll get the ads turned off. I got you guys. One sec. Let's get those likes up. If you guys want to be ad-free this morning, I know I didn't go through my normal monologue, but if you're new to the channel, please do us a favor, like, share, and subscribe. Smash the like button right now. We get those ads off every time we hit 60 likes before 8:30 in the morning, but it's 8:40. We failed this morning. Maybe I failed. Maybe the content's not great this morning. I don't know. You tell me. But you're still here, so we'll keep rolling. All right, so what's next up for you, Eric?
All right, next up, week 14 or 13 was absolutely amazing. We had the game of the year on week 13, correct? Packers Lions. It was an epic battle, one of the best Thursday night games they've ever had on Thursday night, had the highest rating of any Thursday night game ever on Prime. Okay. Now we're going to week 14, and the Bills Lions Steelers Eagles gives the NFL its best pair of week 15 games since 1985. On Sunday at 4:25, the 10-3 Bills and the 12-1 Lions will kick off in Detroit. At the same time, the 10-3 Steelers and 11-2 Eagles will kick off in Philadelphia. That gives the NFL a great pair of late season games, the likes of which football fans rarely get to experience. The last time the NFL had two different games matching up teams with double-digit wins in week 15 or earlier was 1985. That year, the week 15 saw the 13-1 Bears beat the 10-4 Jets, while the 10-4 Dolphins beat the 10-4 Patriots. The Bills, Lions, and Steelers Eagles are a great pair of games, but the unfortunate thing is that they kick off simultaneously, meaning football fans can't give their undivided attention to both. Many fans will watch on two screens, with one showing the Bills, Lions on CBS and the other Steelers, Eagles on Fox, but it would have been great to have at least one of those games in prime time. And that brings me to my next thing. They were talking for weeks about flexing this Lions-Bills game out, but NBC or CBS said, no, you're not doing this one. So,
well, that doesn't make any sense to me, because the NFL has pure autonomy of what they do with the schedule. Like, they can tell the networks that this is what they're going to do. I'm very surprised this didn't get flexed to a Sunday night game. I didn't expect a Monday night game. They weren't going to change the venue, but at least bumping it to Sunday night, I thought was an opportunity. But at the same time, there's only 2 games at the 425 slot usually.
Yeah, I think so.
2 or 3 maybe. So, I mean, it's still somewhat of national attention. And to be honest, who's not going to be watching the Lions? I mean, everyone's watching the Lions right now. You know who else is watching the Lions and loves what the Lions are doing? It's been a huge supporter of Dan Campbell is Richard Sherman. And I'm just going to read a few quotes that came out of his podcast. I had trouble getting the audio downloaded this morning, and it was quite lengthy anyway. But you can check out the Richard Sherman podcast if you want to, get more of the segments and what they discussed. But here's what I'm going to start with. So Richard Sherman, he blasts a lot of the critics out there of what Dan Campbell's doing on 4th down and what the Lions are doing. And quite simply, we'll start with quote number 1. He said, "And what more can you say about Dan Campbell? And he's going for it on 4th. People are tired of this old, prehistoric NFL. It's like the 40-yard dash. It's archaic. Like, at some point, you got to challenge the norms if you want to be different." And I think that we can agree Dan Campbell is pressing every boundary. He is finding every loophole. He's going to use every rule to his advantage. That's what competition is. And that's what building a winning tradition, a winning culture, a winning team is all about. You need to use everything to your advantage. It doesn't mean that you're cheating. It just means that you're smarter than your opponent. And Dan Campbell is just using everything to his advantage right now. There was a high school coach, and I remember this story vividly, that he never punted. Ever. He thought it was a waste of a down. Never punted in his entire career. And this kind of falls in line with that same situation where Dan Campbell is going to utilize every down to his ability as long as it makes sense. Why punt if you can get a first down? And if you get a first down, you are totally changing the game's outcome at least a little bit, and at least for that moment, because you're keeping the other offense off the field. Shout out to Ed O'Neill. Just dropped in a $2 super chat. Says, new media rights, Fox, CBS. Oh, they can protect the game now.
They can.
So that never used to be that way. I didn't know that. Thank you for correcting me this morning, Ed. Appreciate that. And good morning to you, sir. So the next quote by Richard Sherman. He said, if you want to do things that have never been done before, you got to do things that have never been done before. And that's what Dan Campbell is doing. He also went on to say that he's not just saying, hey, it's 4th down, we'll just punt it. We'll just kick a field goal. I know that's the right thing to do. I know that's what they're expecting. And I know that's what the rule book says. But that's not Dan Campbell. That's just, call him Dan Gamble or whatever you want. Call him irresponsible. I don't care. We wouldn't be 12-1 right now if Dan Campbell wasn't making these critical calls. We wouldn't have finished the season the way we did last year, no pun intended, if he didn't make those critical calls. We wouldn't even have been to the NFC Championship game. Probably wouldn't even have been in the playoffs, to be honest with you. You have to go back and look at how many 4th downs that Dan Campbell has called to go for it, or the fake punts or whatever, right, that have turned into, either game-winning drives or points on the board that have helped this team win. Without these critical calls, we are not in the position we are the last 2 seasons. I'm sorry. And that's a fact. And you can fact check it all you want, and I'll be waiting right here if you can find another thing that says otherwise, to be honest with you. I don't think you will. Next up, he says, what rule book? It just says win, and that's what we see. This thing that Teddy Bruschi says, and I got a lot of respect for Teddy Bruschi, played the game right, played the game at a high level, won Super Bowls. But Teddy just stopped. Teddy just stopped because I wouldn't want you on my sideline thinking like that. He says, oh, whoa, you people. I mean, you gotta act like winners. What? Act like winners. They're 12-1. I think we're winners at 12-1. And then the last one I'll highlight, he says, like you're biting kneecaps. If that's their culture, And that's what they've built. And they feel like underdogs, and they like play well like that. And they got a bunch of guys who believe in it. What does it matter to you? What does it matter to how you feel or how they get it done? And that's it. Dan Campbell just gets it done. Whether you agree with every call or not, which we never will. There's not one game that I've ever watched that I've said I've agreed with absolutely everything that they've done. But that's also why I'm in this chair and they're on the sideline. So I think that until Dan Campbell blows it again, if he blows it again, I think we just got to give the dude the benefit of the doubt that he knows what he's doing. And he's trying to bring something to Detroit in any way possible, which is bending the rules, using all the rules, and using every damn down possible to help this team win. So big shout out to Richard Sherman, who has really supported what the Lions are doing. Before we get into the next hour, I can't believe it's only 8:49 in the morning. Going awfully slow this morning. I want to get to a quick commercial from one of our sponsors.
The season is here, and you want the latest news and rumors on your Detroit Lions. Head to SportSpyder.com. That's sports, SPYDER.com, where you can get your Lions news and all your sports in one place. Man, this site is packed with your favorite podcasts, live news, articles from local writers, and insiders, all updating in real time. Not just the Lions, every major sports team, including MMA, UFC, and so much more. Don't want to waste time searching? Sign up for free. Create your ultimate sports news hub. You control what hits your feed at SportSpyder, your number one source for all your sports. Visit SportSpyder.com today, right after the show.
All right, so SportSpyder, again, I love this website. If you guys haven't taken a moment to check it out today. You can literally create your own page. You can sign up for free. And you can get all of your news from all of your sources. They're all there. All the podcasts are there. All of the local and national writers are there. Check it out today. They've been a wonderful addition to the channel here and supporting and sponsoring us. And really appreciate what they do. Anything you want to add real quick before we get into, let's see, you've got the IR report that we're going to talk about. And then I want to get into Alex Anzalone.
Richard Sherman. I started watching his podcast in week 2 or week 3 of the season. And he was not a Lions supporter back in week 2 or week 3 of the season. And he was really good at slamming the Lions. And then we started getting a little better and stringing some games together. And you could see he was slowly coming around. And he was one of the first ones to say, hey, you know what? These guys are doing it right. And I give him props for that. And it was really refreshing and nice to see from Richard Sherman.
Yeah, I think so too, man. I think that there's one thing about Richard Sherman that has always remained true, and that is who he is. I don't feel like Richard Sherman pulls punches. I think he wears his heart on his sleeve. I think he's going to tell you exactly what it is. I don't think that he fills you full of fodder and fluff. I think the dude is just straight up. He recognizes game where there's a game. And right now he's recognizing the Detroit Lions are clearly the best team in the NFL and appreciates what a coach like Dan Campbell is doing. And I've heard him say as much that, you know, if he was still playing, he would love to be able to play for a coach like Dan Campbell. I don't know who wouldn't. So let's highlight a few messages this morning that are coming in. Let's see here. Dale Lynn says, Broski has been banned on other YouTube sites. Diehard Bears fan that lost his pride. And I saw another one. Broski Bear talks so much to be MIA. Where is Broski?
He was in on Crunch Time the other day.
Really?
Yeah, that's the only one I've seen him on.
Interesting.
He popped in and popped out. Yeah.
Wish there was a way to message him.
Yeah. Chicken.
Robert Welch says he doesn't pull punches and he wants you to prove it to him. And I'm telling you now, the Lions have proven it to him, talking about Richard Sherman. So let's see. Jay Cruzen says Teddy is Broski Bear. I connected the dots. There we go.
Yeah, I like that one.
It's too funny.
Teddy Bruschi. Yeah, that's who he is. Wouldn't that be funny if that's actually who it was? That would be hilarious.
It would be.
I can't stand Teddy Bruschi, by the way. Arrogant patriot. Oh, God.
I don't know enough about the guy. I mean, I remember him playing football, and yeah, he was dominant, played the game at a high level, but I don't know enough about him off the field to really, I guess, have an opinion either way. I don't know. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I mean, that's all you guys get from me every damn day, right? I got a bunch of opinions and thoughts, and some of, you guys appreciate it. You call me out when you don't, and that's okay. I'm not always going to be right. I'm not always going to be wrong. I know I get a lot more right than I do get wrong, but it's all about having the conversation. My mind is always open to new ideas and new things. And I think that if you approach, this like that, right? If Teddy Bruschi would approach this like, hey, it's just different. You're not used to it. It's okay. This isn't football from the 90s or the 2000s anymore. It's changed.
Did you see the video with Teddy Bruschi slamming Dan Campbell, though?
No, I have not seen that.
Okay. So they ask him about Dan Campbell, and he says, well, I'd love to have Dan Campbell on the sidelines next to me playing.
Yeah.
But don't give me Dan Campbell as a coach. I never want a coach that goes for it on fourth downs like he does.
Well, I mean, I highlighted that yesterday, that same sort of thing that he spoke about, but I didn't see the video.
Yeah, there's a video, and he's basically just blatantly saying Dan's a meathead, and he would never want a coach that coaches like that.
So how many meatheads are 12-1 in the NFL right now?
Yeah, exactly.
How many meatheads finished 14-3 last year, 12-5 last year?
Yeah, who's the person that is far and away leading for coach of the year, according to Vegas? He's minus 140. The next closest person is Kevin O'Connell at plus 400.
Yeah, if Dan doesn't win it, obviously it's rigged at that point.
It's a farce if he doesn't win it.
All right, so next up, you had a little bit of information on the IR report. So yesterday we were talking about the IR. We got a little bit of a correction and a report here from Eric. Go ahead.
Yeah, so yesterday I thought it was unlimited people could come back from IR, and I was incorrect. Could the Lions run into some NFL roster rule issues when returning players from injured reserve before the playoffs? We got this question from the Detroit Lions fans a lot this week. There's some concern that with the amount of players the current Lions currently have on injured reserve right now, the team could go up against some NFL roster rules ahead of the playoffs. Each year, NFL teams are allowed to bring back 8 players from injured reserve and 2 players from the NFI list, the non-football injury list. So far, the Lions have returned 3 players from IR: Broderick Martin, Emmanuel Mosley, and Ifatu Melifanu, and 1 player from the NFI list, Christian Mahogany. Okay. So looking over the Lions' current IR list, you can see that Alex Anzalone, Khalif Raymond, Ifatu Melifanu for the second time, Jalen Reeves-Maybin, and Ennis Rakestraw are all expected to return this year. That's 5 players right there. So that would be our 5. Does that mean the Lions won't be able to bring back Aiden Hutchinson, Derek Barnes, or John Kaminsky if they're able to come back? Does that mean that the Lions cannot afford to send any more players to IR? Well, it's sort of a yes and no situation. The first thing is that the Lions have clinched in the playoffs. When a team does that, the NFL grants them 2 extra IR returns. The Lions actually have 10 spots now instead of 8. That means they can return all 5 guys and still have 2 spots open here. Here's where they can return Hutchinson and maybe 1 other player in the playoffs. So where the no part comes in is that the Lions are now stuck in a spot where they're just going to have injured players taking up roster spots because they really can't afford to waste any of their IR spots that they have left. So there's the answer to the question. The Lions aren't going to run into any problems unless they create problems for themselves, and I'm sure they won't. So basically it boils down to we get an extra 2 spots. So that would be basically for Hutch if he wants to come back, and one other person if we can possibly get them back. I mean, I have not heard anything about Barnes, anything about Kaminsky. I don't know who else would be eligible, because a lot of them were season-ending IRs that aren't eligible to come back.
Yeah, so run down the list of the players. Yeah, I don't even have the list in front of me right now, but at least the players that we think that are going to come back. Kaminsky had an outside shot. Nothing has been spoken about Kaminsky, so I think that ship has sailed. Davenport, highly unlikely, not coming back, which I found kind of odd because I thought that there would be an opportunity for him.
The ones we know we're getting back are Alex Anzalone, Khalif Raymond, Ife Melifonwu, Jalen Reeves-Maben, and Ennis Rakestraw.
How many was that?
That's 5.
And we've already had 3 come back, right?
Yeah.
So that's your 8. So we've only got 2 spots left.
Yep, we got 2 spots left. And one of them's going to be for Hutch. You know they're going to save it for him.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So we'd have 1 left. And that means if somebody gets hurt this week, let's say, heaven forbid, something happens to one of our running backs and they have to be out for 4 weeks. That's where that would come back into play right there.
So let's walk through this one more time. So Alex Anzalone.
Yep.
Maben is a possibility.
Yep.
Rakestraw is a possibility. He may not even be needed. But would you rather have Rakestraw or Mosley?
Probably Mosley right now.
Wait a second.
But Mosley's already back.
He's already back, so he doesn't even count anymore.
Yeah, so we got Anzalone, Khalif Raymond, Ife Melifonwu, Jalen Reeves-Maben, and Rakestraw. So if he's the only one that, hey, we've already gotten through the whole season without him, do we really need him back? Why not just put him on the shelf for the year?
Well, I think this is his last year under contract, number one. Number two, I think that you can never not have enough depth in your DB room, especially in a safety room where we have Kirby and Branch. Is Brandon Joseph still on the roster? Or did he get waived a few weeks ago?
No, he's still playing. He played in the last game.
So, yeah, I would say that Melifonwu coming back would be an insurance policy.
Yeah, because anytime Branch goes down, because like Branch had some leg issues in the last game and a calf that kept he was getting muscle cramps in his calf. Brandon Joseph came in for all those plays.
I don't remember that. So let's be realistic here, okay? You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys that could possibly come back. What 5 guys are you now kicking off the roster to make room?
I don't know.
That's the question. So for me, is it Jalen Reeves-Maben? Is it Quan Alexander?
David Long?
Or David Long? Which one are you rolling with right now?
Well, you're going to take Anzalone over any of those.
Well, of course, yeah, he's in no matter what. But I guess the point that I'm trying to make here is Quan is going to have multiple weeks into this system before, Maben is potentially even able to come back. So he's able to come back right now. And so if you open up his window, he would be back, week 18, week 17 at the earliest, but week 18, if you took all 3 weeks, so you didn't have to make a move. And by that time, Quan is going to have roughly 5 weeks into this system and probably going to be playing at a very high level. David Long is going to have at least 6 weeks, maybe 7 into the system by then, and he'll be playing at a high level.
And Ezekiel Turner.
So, and also Ezekiel Turner as well. And he's actually been playing pretty well. So would you bring back a Maben that hasn't played all season? And that goes back to the question that I always have to ask myself. If I were the coach on a team and I had a player that hasn't been around for 12 weeks, would I want to risk them coming in and not playing to the potential or at least the level that the guys that have been on this team are playing right now? Would that be a liability? And I think that the answer is always going to be yes. I don't think that Maben does enough that just, puts him back on this roster no matter what. I think that Quan Alexander and David Long can definitely play to the level of Maben. Maybe not so much on special teams, but we have enough guys on special teams to make plays.
And special teams is getting to be less and less and less because 95% of kickoffs are just touchbacks anyway.
Yeah, but you got to remember punt returns too. And that's where, getting downfield is the Lions have been doing great on punt returns.
That's where Hogan Hatton, our secret weapon, comes into play.
Right.
I'm serious, dude. Watch how many times that guy gets down and makes the tackle.
So then I guess where I'm going here is Anzalone is in. I'm out on Maben. Rakestraw. So Rakestraw has been injured pretty much the entire time he's been in Detroit. I do like what he brings to the table. I do like that, he's in the limited time that we've seen him on the field. I think he plays to a high level, but he's also a rookie.
Yep.
And for me, I would probably say, who else is on this roster right now that is playing at a high level, that is playing better than what Rakestraw is going to be able to do? Who's going to be able to contribute more to the roster over a Rakestraw that would just be sitting on the bench, or could be a game day scratch because you just don't need them. So who do you have on the roster that you really need? The defensive line has been decimated, and I think that you're going to want to carry more weight on the defensive line, another roster spot on the defensive line before you bring in another defensive back. So,
and do you think maybe that's why they put him on IR? So they can do a little bit more roster roulette, because a hamstring shouldn't put you on the IR.
But no, that's not true. So hamstrings, I mean, that can be a 6 to 8 week thing. And it can be longer if you don't heal right the first time, then you go in and you land wrong or
this is his second hamstring this season too. So
yeah, so I mean that would make more sense as to why he's on the IR. But to your point, I think that you have to put these guys on the IR so that you can manage your roster and get guys up that can contribute. I'm glad that you used my term roster roulette. That's not many people use that. So Rakestraw, again, I think that with the guys that we have on this roster, I don't think Rakestraw is going to be needed. And I'm not trying to be mean or mean-spirited towards any of these guys. It's a business decision, right? That's what it is. Khalif Raymond definitely needs to come back. And so then the next guy, Melifonwu, is in that same boat. Who on this roster could potentially play better than Melifonwu, right now, who hasn't been in a game all season? And you still have Vaki that plays safety. If you needed him in a pinch to play safety, he could. He hasn't had any snaps at safety, but he could. He knows the position. That's his original position. It's not like he can't go and give you some snaps in a pinch. So I think that, quite honestly, between Melifonwu, Maben, and Rakestraw, I don't think that they would come back right now, because I can't find 3 guys on this roster that I would want to get rid of. I just don't see it. So Mekhi Wingo, he's also on IR right now, right?
Yep.
Is he done for the season?
Yes.
So is Malcolm Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Kyle Pecco is. Anzalone, Bada, Badgley, Derek Barnes, John Kaminsky, Marcus Davenport. Oh my goodness. So Shane Zielstra, you're not getting rid of him. Kevin Zeitler's not going anywhere. Brock Wright's not going anywhere. Jonah Williams, who they just brought in on the defensive line. Clearly, we need the depth. He's not going anywhere. JMO's not going anywhere. I don't think that Kindle's going anywhere. Vaki, Turner, Monroe St. Brown, Colby Sorsdahl, Zadarius Smith, Dan Skipper, Panay Sewell, Allen Robinson, Amik Robertson, Craig Reynolds, DJ Reader, Frank the Tank, Tim Patrick, Josh Pascal. Now, Josh Pascal's a guy that, needs to come back, but he's not on IR. Levi, Pat O'Connor, Trevor Nowaski. You're not getting rid of Trevor. Ben Ben Nyman, you're not getting rid of him. Al-Quddin Muhammad, you're definitely not getting rid of him. David Montgomery, Ali McNeil, Emmanuel Mosley, Broderick Martin, Gio, Christian Mahogany, David Long Jr., Sam Laporta, Kirby Joseph, Brandon Joseph, Hendon Hooker, Hogan Hatton, Jared Goff, Glasgow, Gibbs, Fox, Dorsey, Decker, Davis, Campbell, Branch, Bates, Iwasaka, Arnold, Quan Alexander, Maurice Alexander, and Miles Adams. So I think, Raymond would probably take the place of Maurice Alexander.
Yep.
Anzalone would probably take the place of... Man, that is a tough
probably
one.
Turner.
I don't know that.
Say it, but probably Turner.
I would hate to see Turner have to go back to the practice squad and actually clear waivers. That's a tough one. Okay, let's just say it is Turner. Who else are you going to get rid of for Maben, Rakestraw, Melifano? I just don't see it. Unless it's an offensive lineman that's not getting any play. You would have to shut somebody down for the season with, an injury, which they'd have to actually have an injury. So.
Yep. Or cut them. Yeah, it's going to be really difficult. Very, very difficult decisions. And I would not want to be doing those decisions. I'm glad Brad is here to do those. And that's what he gets paid the big bucks for.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even know. Do we even know how much Brad's getting paid? I don't know that I've ever seen a salary for him.
I know him and Campbell both got extensions there last year. So
yeah,
after the 12-5 season. So I have something kind of interesting. All right. And this was not on our board today. Teddy Bridgewater, our backup quarterback from last season, is now coaching high school football. And Miami Northwestern is heading to the state title game in the first season under Coach Teddy Bridgewater. Back in February, it was announced that former Pro Bowler Teddy Bridgewater was returning to his high school alma mater, this time as a coach. The former quarterback at Miami Northwestern from 2008 to 2011, the Bulls chose to bring Bridgewater back to lead the team from its first losing record in more than a decade. Prior to bringing in Bridgewater, Northwestern had gone through 2 head coaches in 2 seasons. Now the return of Bridgewater has seen a remarkable turnaround for the Bulls after hammering Melbourne 40-0 over the weekend. Northwestern will play for the Florida 3A state championship against Jacksonville. Northwestern has lost just twice this season, an overtime heartbreaker to number 4 Venice in August and a nail-biter against Miami in September. Since the Norland loss, the Bulls have rattled off 9 consecutive wins. And their winning margins have been 69, 52, 48 and 40, and in the playoffs so far their point differential is 214 points.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So Teddy Bridgewater, he is a hell of a high school coach. So that's a team that had a losing record last year and is now in the state championship.
Yeah, you bring in some of these NFL level, protections and other things that they're probably doing on the offense. And even some of the defensive strategies. I mean, they're not using, probably all the lingo, right? It's really, really tough to learn, especially at that young age. But I can only imagine some of the plays that he's utilizing that these other teams are like, what in the world is going on? Their heads are probably just spinning. So, all right, up next, I want to talk about the man of the hour, and that is Alex Anzalone. Alex has been a big time contributor for this Lions defense ever since he arrived. And I want to highlight a couple of things this morning. So I want to go back to a letter that Alex Anzalone wrote to Lions fans after the NFC Championship game. And just re-listen, right, to what he had said. And how some of what he said back then, well, all of what he said back then, really remains true today. And the support that he has and the kind of leadership that he embodies and how important he is to this team. But first and foremost, on the injury front, he gave a really good update on what he's doing and what's working. And I believe it was on a Ross Tucker podcast is where I caught it. Again, I was going to do the audio this morning, but I figured I would just read you guys a bedtime story this morning and talk about Alex Anzalone. So obviously Alex has been one of the fan favorites for a long time. You know, he's really he's embraced this team. He's embraced this city. And I think that it's been reciprocated back to Alex. You know, when we lost Alex, it was that oh no moment, like, oh geez, you know, like how many more guys are we going to lose? But this is a big one. You know, the quarterback of the defense is probably your most important player to be able to get your defense in line each and every down. So Jack's done an excellent job, you know, filling in. I think that, you know, there hasn't been, how do I put it? There hasn't been much for mistakes that I'm seeing. You just got new guys that just don't know what they're doing right now. So I think that Jack has done a great job. But the good news for Alex is that, you know, he's really getting healthy at the right time, which is going to shape up for a late season playoff return for him, or late season or playoff return for him. And according to Dan Campbell, and on top of all of that, Anzalone updated the fans about his recovery just yesterday. So here's what he had to say. He was asked about his recovery and how he's doing. He said, quote, "They do a good job of not putting players in harm's way, as opposed to many places around the league, or how traditionally the NFL is viewed." So I want to break that down for just a second. Number one, he's talking about Detroit not putting players in harm's way. They don't screw around with injuries. They don't want these guys to ruin their careers. And I think that the more we talk about Aiden Hutchinson and his potential return, I think that this is the quote that everybody really needs to key in on. That the Detroit Lions do not put players in harm's way versus what you see around the league. You know, when you're under contract to do something, like you've lost, you know, control, you know, over what you can say or do. And if the team thinks that you're ready to go and wants to put you in, they can. But we've seen time and time again, the Lions just don't do that. They make sure that you're 100% ready. Does it always work out? No. In Emmanuel Mosley's case, it hasn't. You know, he's just been extremely unlucky. But I don't think that has anything to do with the Lions and how they've handled it. To continue on, Alex Anzalone's quote, he said, quote, "I'm just doing everything I can to accelerate the bone healing, whether it's hyperbaric chamber, or different things in the training room. They have 1,000,001 things you can do. They call it osteoblasts. So I'm doing everything I can, whether it's 6 weeks or less. I'm getting an x-ray soon. So who knows what that x-ray is going to say." So osteoblasts is a treatment, and they are cells that create and strengthen bones. And they're responsible for the process of ossification, or the bone building process. So the functions of an osteoblast are responsible for building new bone tissue, reshaping bones, and healing damaged bones. In the process, osteoblasts create a protein matrix called bone matrix, which is made of collagen, calcium, phosphate, and other minerals. They then deposit the bone matrix in areas of the bone that need to be strengthened, repaired, or grown. The bone matrix hardens into new bone. It's a relationship with osteoclasts. So if you know anybody that has osteoporosis, this is one of the ways that they try to mend, bones that have, holes everywhere, is doing this type of process with osteoclasts, utilizing osteoblasts. So he's utilizing anything and everything that he can to get back faster. I can only imagine or guess that Aiden Hutchinson's probably doing the same thing. I haven't heard if he's doing, any sort of stem cell therapy. And I know there's some things in the United States that are allowed, and, other places you have to go to, like Tijuana, to be able to get other stem cell therapies. those can really reduce the length of time that you are sitting out from injury, and it can help the healing process. But again, we just don't know if they're utilizing any of that. But at least he's utilizing osteoblast. So he isn't able to participate in practice just yet, as we know, but he has been around the Lions building and trying to stay as close as he can during his rehab. Another quote from Alex is, "I'm not in the meetings as much. I drop in when I can because my rehab post-surgery is starting to get a little bit more extensive with my workouts and running. Usually we do that during the meeting times, and then I'm out there for practice and walkthroughs so I can just stop in." The biggest part of what I wanted to highlight this morning about Alex Anzalone's true leadership to this team is how he has been working with Jack Campbell and tries to give him a boost on and off the field as much as he can. Quote by Alex says, "I talk to him after every game, and he's hard on himself. I just try to help loosen him up a little bit and not take football so serious. Even a guy like Quan Alexander, who we are going to rely on a lot, talking to him, trying to relay the information kind of like how we learned it in New Orleans. I just help out at walkthroughs with different guys." So it's great to see Alex is doing these things, right? Taking his rehab very serious and doing what he can to make it back to the team as soon as possible. Considering the amount of injuries that the Lions have faced, this is obviously an important player to get back. Another quote by Brad Behrman here from the Sideline Report said that even though his injury was frustrating, Anzalone hasn't quit working, and he hasn't stopped building his teammates up. That investment has been important to the Detroit Lions defense, continuing to play well in his absence. So I find it really not only beneficial, but I just view Alex as a generational player. You know, he's somebody that, again, he embodies everything Detroit's about. The culture, the grit, the tenacity, the next man up, whatever you want to go with. The Lions doing a lot of great things, and Alex is a big part of that. And he has been since day one. And that's where I want to go back to this letter that he wrote. And he said, "Dear Detroit, we were all behind Dan on the 4th down call. Let's get that out of the way first." This is another reason why I wanted to highlight this, is because we've been going through this conversation the last week of, well, this exactly.
This is reckless.
Talking about Dan Campbell and that he's a reckless coach. And I think a lot of us feel the exact opposite. Yeah, he makes some calls that get us on the edge of our seat. Some work, some don't. But to continue on with Alex's letter, he says, "If you could rewind time, we'd all do it again. 100 times out of 100. The offense, the defense, everybody. If you have been following this team's journey for the last 3 years, then you know how we play football. You know the mentality that got us here. It was the right decision. And I'm not talking about the right decision for analytics or talk radio or whatever. It was the right call for us, especially in that moment. When you're in that situation, 20 games into an NFL season, it's not like a video game. You're not playing Madden. You had guys out there playing with bum ankles, guys playing with MCL sprains, guys taking nerve injections or Toradol, guys who could barely get out of bed that morning. It's a battle of wills at that point in the season. You're just running on pure belief and adrenaline. I feel like if you shy away from your identity in that moment, then you're betraying the very thing that got you there. On 4th down in that situation, we were always going for the kill. That mentality took us from 0-10-1 to the NFC Championship game in just a few seasons. Honestly, if anything, when we decided to kick the field goal in the first half, I was more surprised then. When the chips are down, Detroit is always going to bet on Detroit. So to break down that segment there of his letter, I love the last statement. Detroit is always going to bet on Detroit. It's not about talk radio. It's not about analytics. It's about us, the team, and what we believe in. Getting to that point in the season, everyone is injured. You know, how much longer can these guys sustain? They're operating on, what did he say? Adrenaline and belief. And lastly, how he was more, what did he say? He said that he was more surprised that Dan Campbell took the points in the first half and didn't go for it on fourth down. So everything that Alex said back then, and this was, when was this? This was February 6th of 2024. It's funny how it's synonymous with today, and nothing has really changed. It's still the same team. It's still the same mentality. And I think that when you see a team that does the same thing over and over and over again, it's not a fluke. It's just what they do. And the fact that Dan has been so consistent should tell us all something. This is with purpose and intent. It's not just a rash decision. So to continue on with his letter, he says, to a man, I think we'd do it all again. With that said, does it hurt? Hell yeah, it hurts. What day is it today? I've been in a daze. My phone says it's Saturday. Well, it still hurts on Saturday. The only way that I can express my emotions a week after the NFC Championship is through my son Cooper's eyes. He summed it up best, and he's only 3 years old. He took his first steps at our old townhouse here in Detroit, right before Christmas of 2021. After we had gotten our first win of the season against the Vikings, we were 1-10-1. I was on a 1-year contract. Fun times. If you would have told me back then, when Cooper was stumbling around our Christmas tree, that we'd be here in Detroit 3 years later, and that we'd be just one game away from the Super Bowl, man, I'd have been the happiest guy on the planet. Fast forward to 6 o'clock in the morning as I'm pulling into my driveway the morning after the 49ers game, and I was devastated. A few tears were definitely shed in the locker room, a few more on the plane home, and when I got into the house, it was a surreal feeling. You have to know a bit about my family story to understand. My wife, Lindsay, she's my absolute rock. There's nothing I can say here that would sum up how much she means to me and how emotional the last 3 years of our lives have been. In 2021, Cooper was born. In 2022, right before our second training camp in Detroit, as we were preparing to welcome our second child into the world, we had a miscarriage. That toll kind of nightmare takes on a mom, or the toll that kind of nightmare takes on a mom is always so hard. But when you have a 1-year-old at home and your husband is always on the road or at work, well, it's just amazing to me how she was able to be so strong for us all. I tell the guys all the time, especially the young guys, nobody loves football like I love football, but it's still just football. There's things that will happen in your life, good and bad, that will make what happens between the white lines seem very small in comparison. The way this city and all the fans lifted me and my family up during those dark days added a whole nother dimension to the season. When our daughter Carter was born right before the holidays, and we were playing such great football, and all the Christmas lights and the Lions flags were going up all over the city, it was such a special time. Probably the happiest I've ever been. The only thing that could have possibly made it better, you already know. I don't even want to say those words. So when I got home from San Francisco and walked in the door, I had a quiet moment with Lindsay to kind of process all the emotions and leave them at the door. Because I always try to be where my feet are. No matter what's going on at work, for the sake of my kids, I tried to get a few hours of sleep before the little monsters woke up and the madness started. I was lying in bed for probably 2 hours when I felt something small and warm crawling on top of me. Daddy, you're home. Woohoo. Lindsay tried to do the whole daddy's very tired from his game routine, but Cooper wasn't having any of it. He literally pulled my eyelids open like in a cartoon and said, Dad. It took me another 30 minutes to roll out of bed, and then I think I just slumped on the floor while Cooper played with his toys all around me. Dad, I want to tackle. Dad's got cracked ribs, buddy. Don't tackle Daddy. He's clearly got my DNA because his preschool teacher has been sending home reports that are like, Cooper is extremely energetic and helpful in the classroom. However, he tends to get a little overexcited with his friends at playtime. When I pick him up after school, it's like, Cooper, what did you do today? And the teacher said, Daddy, I was tackling. Okay, buddy. We need to talk about personal space. So look, I could go into all of the rest of this, but I want to skip into a few things there. So he talks about Thanksgiving 2022, when we played Buffalo down to the wire and lost another heartbreaker, and we were sitting at 4-7. We got to the practice the next Tuesday, and our linebackers coach, Calvin Shepard, looked at us all in the eyes and said, hey, just so you all know, we're winning out. We're winning out. That's our expectation now. Opening night this season against Kansas City, when we spoiled their big banner raising party, a lot of young teams would have seen that schedule come out in the summer and thought, oh man, Kansas City? Our guys thought, oh man, Kansas City. The wild card game, Stafford and the Rams coming into Ford Field with all the buzz around them. Pundits picking against us, thinking that we would blow it. Running out of the tunnel with 3 fractured ribs, feeling absolutely no pain. Eminem in the building with 65,000 people singing Lose Yourself. And Jared Goff with ice water in his veins in such a big moment for the whole city. Banishing all the ghosts of 1991, which is about 10 years before a lot of our young guys were even born. Then after the game, seeing the incredible video of that Lions fan crying in the stands and just how much it meant to him. Learning his history, and then how his late father was a lifelong Lions fan who actually helped build Ford Field. It's just Detroit in one image. The Tampa game. You thought we were done? How about Amon-Ra fighting for the first down with 3 guys on his back on 3rd and 15? Derek sealing it with an unbelievable read. The random lady coming up to David Montgomery at the gas station and giving him a hug and breaking down in tears. All of it. That's what I thought of when Cooper asked me so innocently, Daddy, did you go to the Super Bowl? Nobody. We didn't. But don't worry, we'll get there. What we're building here is extremely special. You can't talk about it all day, or you can talk about it all day, but the proof is in the pudding, as they say. It's one thing to say that a city and a team and a culture is unique. It's another thing to actually turn down the cheddar. Great to have you back, Coach Ben and Coach AG. We will get there. I look at this roster and I see so much to be excited about. Jared, Allen, Amon-Ra, Panay, Jameer, David, Frank, Sam, dogs everywhere, up and down the roster. But it goes beyond talent. It's not like a catchy saying you put up on the walls of the facility. It's not something you can put into words. It's something that we feel in our bones. We want to make history next season. Anything less is failure. So to all the Lions fans out there, before I go, I have a final question for you. Are you going to watch it on Sunday? He was talking about the Super Bowl. It's funny. When we had our exit meetings with Dan the other day, he actually asked the same thing. I didn't know how to answer. I honestly hadn't even thought about it yet, and it kind of made me sick thinking about going to some Super Bowl party and standing around like an idiot trying to pretend to be happy. But Dan said, nope, you got to watch it, man. Use every second of it as motivation. I'll sure as hell be watching. I can't help but have this image of Dan sitting in a dark room this Sunday, all by himself, gripping his coffee cup for 3 hours, staring daggers at the TV, just counting down the milliseconds until training camp starts and we can run it back. You're going to have 53 dogs out there doing the exact same. You're going to have a whole coaching staff doing the same. You're going to have a whole city doing the same. This year, it sucks. Next year, it's us. Believe, Alex. Wow. I almost wanted to go to tears reading this morning.
Dude, it gave me the shivers when he was talking about the playoff game with Matt Stafford and singing Eminem, and I'm getting them again. And I just look over to my left, and on the wall, I have this giant 2023 NFC North Division Champions flag on my wall. And it just reminds me every day that we need to win that again, and we need to go further than that this year. We need to win the damn Super Bowl. And I've been thinking about something for weeks. You know, we were talking before about going to the Super Bowl, and yesterday I actually bought a raffle ticket to win a Super Bowl ticket. It was $100, and It's to win an all-inclusive $10,000 ticket to the Super Bowl for On Location. And there's something I've been thinking about that they're going to do at Ford Field. They are going to have a watch party, and it will be the watch party to be all end all watch parties, because it's going to be a Super Bowl watch party at Ford Field. There's going to be 65,000 people in Ford Field watching the Super Bowl. And I'm almost having a hard time thinking about going to the actual game or going to the watch party, which would be more fun. Because
so I want to finish this on Alex here real quick. The reason why I wanted to read this morning and go through this is because everything that he said in this letter, and to those that asked where you could get the letter, I just posted it and pinned it.
Oh, okay.
So it's at the top there if you want to copy it. This man played through so much. The broken ribs or the cracked ribs, whatever he had going on in multiple games. But this letter, it just embodied everything that this team has been through. And how he correlates it to his family and the dynamics of his family and sharing some very personal information. These players do more than just football, right? I think that when a lot of fans look at a team and they look at the players, they see the player on the field, they forget about the man at home or the husband, the father, the family man. There's so much more to these guys. And what they're doing right now, they planned on this. They knew it was their turn. As long as they put the work in. They were all ready to get right back after it. Even though some of us thought Frank Ragnow was going to retire, just based on his comments. He knew deep in his heart that he wasn't going to do that. He was just emotional. There's a lot of things that these players are going through at the end of that season. They didn't even want to watch the Super Bowl. But you know what? Dan Campbell, being the man that he is saying, no, you got to use this as motivation. You need to use all of it as motivation, because next year we're gunning for all of it ourselves again. So I don't know. You guys got to read it yourself. You're going to pull a lot of things out of this. I read about 75% of it. I skipped over a lot of the middle stuff. Yeah, Alex Anzalone, man, true leadership. A true leader on this team. And you can tell that he wants it so bad for the city. It's not so much for him. It's for the city. It's for the fans that he wants to deliver this. And I think that he will. So we need him back. All the praises, all the well wishes to Alex Anzalone. We should have him back here in a few weeks. But man, what an epic letter. And I kind of forgot how emotional the letter was when I read it last year. So big shout out to Alex Anzalone, man. Wearing his heart on the sleeve. All right, so I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you're talking about wanting to watch the Super Bowl party, which would be hopefully the Lions, right? Which will be the Lions. Yeah. Or being at the Super Bowl. And like I said, we'll have the Verbo down there in New Orleans. So even if the Lions go and for some reason we're not able to get Super Bowl tickets, we'll at least be part of the party, and part of the energy and the tailgating experience and whatever. I'm just hoping that, through the season ticket holder program that we're able to snag at least a couple of tickets. If not, I don't know. I think I'd rather be there on location.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I do think that Ford Field would put on one hell of a watch party, and it wouldn't be for 8,000. It would be for 65,000 fans.
Oh, they'd sell it out in a heartbeat.
They'd sell the whole stadium, standing room only.
So I'm curious to know how many people got tickets yesterday. The Lions, put on some extra ticket sales yesterday for what could be a wild card game, which we're not expecting to go to. We're expecting to have first week bye. I'm curious if anybody were able to get tickets. I seen a lot of people that logged on. There was like 3,000-4,000 people in front of them, just like training camp. It's gonna be tough to get tickets.
Yep.
All right, what's up next? What else do you have for the rest of the show here? Anything?
Yeah, I did have a little something. You had the Brett Favre thing, and then I had Sunday's Lions game against the Bills is the biggest regular season game of Jared Goff's career. The Detroit Lions have a huge game on Sunday that everyone is looking forward to. They'll play the Buffalo Bills at home in a game that has everyone thinking this could be a preview of the Super Bowl. All eyes will be on this thing, including the eyes of MVP voters. That's why this is the biggest regular season game of Jared Goff's career. This is the night that he could very realistically put himself in the driver's seat for the MVP if he goes out and has a big game with some big moments. Voters absolutely love voting for the quarterback of one of the first seeded teams. 12 of the last 15 MVPs were all quarterbacks of the first seeded team. It didn't even matter if they were perceived as the best quarterback in the league. What matters is wins, and while quarterback wins are not a real stat, they certainly are to the voters. And if you remember last year, who got the MVP?
I don't even remember last year.
It was the quarterback.
Was it Lamar?
Yeah, it was Lamar Jackson.
It was Lamar last year.
Jared Goff had better stats across the board, except for rushing, than Lamar Jackson last year. He had more yards, more everything. And it all came down to who was a first seeded team. I think that it could go a long way this weekend with Jared Goff and the voters. If he has a big game, and let's say the Lions defense is able to stymie Josh Allen for a week. Let's say we get him for a pick or two and he has a bad game. He doesn't rush for a whole bunch. He rushes for 36 yards and only has one touchdown. Let's say that's his stat line. He gets 225 yards. But Goff goes off and gets 380 yards and 4 touchdowns, no picks, and he has an 85% completion rate, and he breaks the record for the most games with 75% or better completion rate in a game, because he's tied right now for the most in the season, 7, and he could get 8 games if he breaks it this weekend.
I think a few things are going to happen, and I'll leave some of these calls for later on in the week, but I do think that Jared Goff is going to get at least 1 record, if not 2, in this next game. I don't think that Jared Goff is playing this game to beat Josh Allen in an MVP race. I think that's probably the furthest thing from his mind, but I think that as long as Jared plays a clean game, and should he win this game, how can you not put Jared Goff ahead on the MVP votes if you just beat the other guy that's competing with you?
Yep.
I think it almost makes sense, right? But I think there's a couple of things that Jared Goff's going to be able to do this weekend that I'm going to highlight towards the end of the week here when we do offense, defense, and all that good stuff.
Ed O'Neill just gave us another $1.99 super chat. He says, I'd have to watch the Super Bowl by myself, TBH. And yeah, so everybody in the chat, if the Lions make the Super Bowl, where are you going to watch the Super Bowl at? Are you going to go to Ford Field? Are you going to go to New Orleans? Or are you just going to watch it from home? Are you going to go to your favorite bar? Are you going to go out with your buddies? Where are you going to watch the Super Bowl if the Lions make the Super Bowl?
Yeah, big shout out to you, Ed. Appreciate the $1.99 super chat. And Better the Hunt says where the Eagles seeded first last year. I believe they were
10-1. No, San Francisco.
Oh, they collapsed. Yeah, San Francisco was. They collapsed.
San Francisco was the number 1, and the Bills were number 1 last year.
Yeah.
On the other side.
Speaking of Better the Hunt, don't forget we're going to be giving away C3 mitts today. So make sure you guys get your hands in these C3 mitts at c3mitts.com. Better the Hunt Technologies. Again, you've got the multi-mitt, which this mitt can do anything. If you're on an ATV, if you're out golfing, if you're rock hunting, whatever it is, strap these things onto your hands. Keep your hands warm while you're doing your outdoor activities. Even snow blowing, these things will make a great mitt for. You know, the funny thing about mitts and gloves, when you think about it, the reason why mitts were so popular is because your hand is together inside a mitt, and so the heat stays around your hand. When it's separated by a glove, you don't have that same benefit of keeping all of the heat in one area. That's what these mitts help you do. But not only that, when you're out practicing in the woods, you know, all summer long, getting ready for your fall hunting season, you're practicing with a bare hand. These mitts also help you do that with control and confidence. You're not going to lose that same grip that you've had all summer long. So check out c3mitts.com today. They've got a special going on right now. Buy any two mitts for $75, free shipping, and you're going to get a free multi-mitt with your order. There'll be some other deals in that popping up here soon. But we're going to select somebody today. And matter of fact, let's just do it right now. So earlier in the show, I had mentioned a couple of things. And I think the one that I'm going to pick is, when is the last game, and it can either be the date or the team that we went up against that had a 100-yard rusher against the Lions. So the first person to put it in the chat, the team or the player or the date that we had a 100-yard rusher against the Lions, not a quarterback. There it is, Ed O'Neill. So Ed O'Neill is the winner. So Ed, do me a favor, email me at mailbag@rockdon.com. Again, that's mailbag@rockdon.com, and we'll get you settled up on. So it's Wednesday. You get to pick, what mitt you would like to receive, and we'll get you settled up. They usually go in the mail pretty much right away, so you should have it within a week or so. To kind of finish out today, I had one other subject here, and look, I don't think that it's any surprise or secret that the Bills and the Lions have been friendly franchises, if you will, very friendly to each other. And, the Lions have lent out their stadium when, you had the big snowstorms in Buffalo and they couldn't play, their game there, and it was moved to Detroit. They've done that a couple of times, honestly. What I read yesterday about Josh Allen giving the Lions some flowers, you don't necessarily see this all the time from opposing teams. So I'm going to read this little article here, and then we'll extrapolate a couple of quotes out by Josh Allen. So week 15 of the NFL will be no ordinary week for the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen and his teammates are traveling to Ford Field to face the Detroit Lions in a matchup that could serve as a preview of the next Super Bowl. The talented Bills quarterback knows that he'll be up against a tough opponent in Jared Goff. Led by Sean McDermott, the Bills come off a narrow loss to the Rams in Los Angeles, a game where Allen had a stellar performance that unfortunately wasn't enough to secure the win. His 6 touchdown passes place him as one of the top contenders for MVP this season. Now, after the game, the former Wyoming player spoke with the media and was honest when discussing the upcoming matchup that will pit 2 of the top contenders to go the furthest this season against each other. And this was his first quote. He said, "They are the top dog in football right now." That's what Josh Allen said about the Detroit Lions. He continued to say, quote, "They're playing extremely well. We have to have a good week and learn from this one and put it behind us. The matchup between both teams will take place this Sunday." So Josh Allen is giving the Lions some flowers by saying that we are the top dog in the NFL right now. I didn't expect that from him. The Bills are also a top dog in the NFL right now, not only by the record, but by the way that they're playing. He went on to say that we have to come out with some urgency. I don't think that at any phase of the game that we did that today, talking about the game versus the Rams. So friendly franchises, I guess I'm not surprised. Josh Allen has taken the high road here. I think he's a pretty solid dude. But this is going to be a game where you're going to see 2 teams that actually get along. You know what I mean? They're not going to get along when, the first whistle happens to the last snap. But I think that we're going to see 2 teams that absolutely just get along here. And
they're not going to have booze raining down on them like the Packers did. I mean, even when one Packer player came out for pregame warmups, it was we just showered them with booze. It was absolutely incredible. And
I don't know. I still think that we're going to boo the hell out of them.
we will, but nothing like the Packers. That's our rivalry, you know. And like my dad, I talked to my dad the other day, and my father was in radio for 30, 40 years, and he's retired now. And he was a station manager in Riverton, Wyoming. And his last interview that he did before he retired was at the University of Wyoming with Josh Allen. And he talks about how nice Josh Allen was and what a monster of a human being he is. He's huge. And he said that was one of the best interviews he ever did. And one of his favorite interviews was with Josh Allen right before my dad retired. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool, man. All right, so we'll get into some picks real quick before we end today's show. Pete Prisco, good old Pete, Pistol Pete, talks about Week 15 NFL picks, and he says the Bills are going to take down the Lions in a thriller. He thinks that the Eagles will prevail in a battle of Pennsylvania. Let me get into this article real quick. He's talking Rams 49ers. He's picking the 49ers 28-23 over the Rams.
Nah.
He's picking the Cowboys over the Panthers. He's picking the Chiefs over the Browns in a close one, 21-19.
I can see that one.
I could see that one, but I think the Browns are going to beat the Chiefs.
Maybe the Browns are eliminated from playoff contention.
That doesn't matter. I just think that their defense is still going to come out and play.
They're going to try to play spoiler.
Always. That's what you do at the end of the season.
I guess.
He's got the Dolphins over the Texans in a nail biter by 4 points.
That I could see.
He's got the Jets over the Jags by 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
Commanders commanding over the Saints by 13.
Yep.
Wow, the Ravens are a minus 15 favorite versus the Giants. Unbelievable. He's got the Ravens winning by 20.
Wow.
You know what, though? Every time anybody goes to New York this late in the season, for whatever reason, New York has always played those games tight, but they don't have Danny Dimes anymore. And I think that could be, I guess, the nail in the coffin for the Giants this season, that they're not going to be able to play spoiler without Danny Dimes. I just don't see who's their quarterback now.
The pizza guy.
Yeah, what's his name? DeVito? No.
Yeah, DeVito.
Yeah, DeVito.
DeVito. Yeah.
I just don't see where he's going to be able to, exercise the same demons that Danny Dimes was able to in games past. He's got the Bengals over the Titans by 13. Bengals are only a -5 favorite right now, which that seems kind of odd to me. I would think that the Bengals would be a much bigger favorite over the Titans.
Titans have a decent defense.
They do. They didn't against us, but they do.
No.
Patriots and Cardinals. He's got the Cardinals by 8. He has the Broncos by 6 over the Colts. And then he has the Buffalo Bills, which it's showing the Buffalo Bills as a +2 underdog. I wonder if it's changed. It was -1.5.
It was 3, and then it went down to 1.5, and today it's at 2.5.
Interesting. So he's got the Bills winning 37-35. So somewhat of a shootout.
Yeah.
And I think the Lions win a shootout. I think that this is going to be a game, not to give up too much of my insights for the week, but I think that this is going to be a game where the Lions are probably going to roll a lot more nickel defense and have a lot more DBs on the field without, both of us kind of agreed this week that this may not be a game where sacking Josh Allen is the most important measure or measuring stick of the game, but it's the containment. And I think with an extra DB in the box, you're going to be able to provide that containment of Josh Allen and finding, at least one, if not two guys to have their eyes forward, making sure that they don't let Allen get too far downfield. You know, if he picks up 5 yards here or there, so what? Maybe a first down every once in a while may happen, but we cannot see Josh Allen going for 80 yards in this game.
No,
I don't even want to see him get 30.
If you go back to the Colts game that we played at the Colts, our defense wasn't trying. I don't even know if we got a sack, and we might have got 1 sack in that game. And we were just trying to contain Anthony Richardson. And he got out in the first quarter or so. He got a couple of runs, but then after that, we stuffed him.
They kind of went away from the run pretty quickly.
Yeah, the whole second half, he did nothing in the run game. And their run game, the whole game was awful. And that's the exact type of defense we need to have against this team. Although I do believe that Josh Allen is a better passer than Anthony Richardson, and he may actually connect on a few of those passes where Anthony Richardson just threw it off to the sunset. He literally, he was just throwing balls and you had no clue where they were going.
Yeah, buckshot, man. It was spraying everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah, that was
that's not Josh Allen.
It was a little weird seeing that happen. It's like, this is an NFL quarterback that can't hit the broadside of a barn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to go back to look to see if we did get any sacks that day.
I think we had 1.
I don't know why I'm not able to find them here. Let me look.
Should be on the box score.
Yeah, we didn't get any that day.
No.
We had 1 TFL. No sacks that day.
No sacks. And that's fine. I will handle a game with no sacks. That is fine by me if we can contain Josh Allen and win the game.
The win is the only thing that matters.
Yep.
So to finish off, Pete Prisco's picks for the week here, he has the Chargers over the Bucks by 6, the Steelers dropping to the Eagles by 7, Packers over the Hawks by 4. I think the Seahawks are going to beat the Packers.
I do too.
He's got the Vikings over the Bears by 16. He also has the Raiders taking down the Falcons. And quite honestly, that is a game that I would agree with. The Raiders at home and the way that the Falcons have been playing lately, they could drop their 5th game in a row.
Yeah, they're done.
I think the Falcons are they've just fallen flat on their face. And now their general manager, I don't even know his name. Now he's probably looking like a genius for taking the quarterback.
Yeah.
And maybe that quarterback gets some time once the Falcons get eliminated.
But what do they do with that huge contract for Cousins?
I don't remember all the details to it, so I don't know how much guaranteed money is still left on his deal.
180 million guaranteed, I thought it was, for 2 years.
Man, that's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess Cousins is going to be a backup quarterback for a couple seasons.
Yeah, might be. Expensive one. I don't know why they haven't put Penix in yet, because that kid was electric in college. Is he just not catching on to the pro game fast enough, or what?
Well, they're obviously going to roll with their $180 million quarterback, right? I mean, they paid him. They got to play him. So anyway, you guys have been wonderful today. Appreciate you guys joining the show. So don't forget, was it Ed O'Neill that won?
Yeah.
Won the mitts. Ed, don't forget to reach out. And Ed, I don't think you've won yet, right? I don't think you've won yet. And I just want to make sure that we know that you can only win one time. We're going to spread the love. So I don't think Ed's won yet, but make sure you email me, mailbag@rockdown.com. Get me your address, and we'll get that sent on to Better the Hunt Technologies. We'll be back tomorrow, 8 a.m. We're going to start getting into offense versus defense, Lions and Bills. We're going to start breaking it down and see what are the things that I'm seeing this week. We've had quite a few calls that have been hitting in each game all season, and this game is going to be no different. This is the game that I really want to get right, and I hope that I do, because I'm obviously picking the Lions to win this game. I think it's going to be a tough game, of course. I think it could be a shootout. I think there could be a lot of points scored, and largely that's because both defenses are a little bit banged up, but the Bills' defense just hasn't been playing great, and I think that's going to give the Lions some opportunity. But we're going to get into that tomorrow morning with more Lions news, rumors, and game prep, game review. tomorrow morning. It starts at 8 a.m. Final 30 seconds to you, Eric. What else do you want to add for the rest of the day here?
I can't wait for this game. It's going to be awesome. I'm finally done with the Packer game. That's behind us. I'm ready to move on to the Bills. Let's go Lions. Let's get to 13-1. Let's do something I've never seen in my lifetime.
Yeah, I've never even saw 12-1.
No, none of us have.
Or 11-1 or 10-1.
And I'll just say this. Listen, as Lions fans, I'm not going to tell anyone how to be a fan. I'm not going to tell anyone what to do. I am not going to gatekeep any bandwagon fans. I don't care if you're a Carolina Panther fan and you want to come be a Lions fan, come be a Lions fan. I don't care. You were a Cowboys fan. Now you want to be a Lions fan the rest of the season. Come on. We got lots of room, lots of love over here in Detroit, and Detroit Lions fans that have been here for a long time. Enjoy every millisecond of this, every day, every hour, every second. Enjoy it all, because it could be gone in an instant. So enjoy all of this, man. Take it all in. I love it. Go Lions.
All right. We'll be back tomorrow morning. I don't really have anything else to finish with. Can't wait to see the injury updates today. Today is probably going to be the first look at what we're facing, but tomorrow is more of the telling story. But it'd be interesting to see what happens. I just seen someone put it in the chat that good to see that Reader is back. I haven't seen anything about Reader being back yet. That would be great. As far as McNeil's in concussion protocol, and I think what Dan Campbell said the other day is Thursday is kind of the day that he's hoping to have some of these answers, about Taylor Decker, about Reader, about McNeil, about everybody, Josh Paschal, Levi Onwuzurike, to kind of give us our first glimpse at what's going to happen would be Thursday. But I haven't seen anything on Reader. So if you've seen something, please email it to me, because I just haven't seen it. I would love to know that he's in the game. We need Reader back. If you noticed, interior pressure was a little bit, missing out of last week's game. And that's a big reason as to why the Lions are successful week in and week out, is with that interior pressure. So back at it tomorrow with the Rise and Grind Morning Show. You guys have a wonderful day. Here is a word from one of our sponsors.
Every day, thousands of people are discovering Uper Lights, Michigan's newest, funnest rock to go find on the shores of the Great Lakes. Don't go out with just any light. Try the Convoy C8 from uperlights.com. It's guaranteed for life, and you'll find all the ones everyone else misses. Quality UV lights that are perfect for Uper Lights, with prices starting as low as $20. Please make sure to visit uperlights.com for all your UV flashlight needs, with the best guarantees on the market. Just what you wanted and not what you didn't. The best quality, the best guarantees, and the best UV flashlights from uperlights.com.